Industrialist, a Roblox game about money, power, pollution, oil, metal, electricity, more money, leaded gasoline, protesters, diesel, gearbox automation, electronics, cold stained skies, cultural ethics, world domination. Welcome to Industrialist, a game about industry. It's literally in the title. You can read, right? Heavily inspired by Factorio, but without the big alien bugs. Instead, it takes a more realistic approach, mostly in resource extraction, electricity, and production. With your money, you'll purchase machinery from anonymous sources. Surprisingly, there's no agonizing pile of paperwork for permits or the need to secure mirror rights up front. And like any billionaire you heard stories about, with high school to start your own company to become the 1%. And just like Factorio, is just as addicting like blue candy. So let's begin.
Tight, yeah! Blue, yellow, pink! Whatever, man, just keep bringing me that.
After making a world, you can do an optional tutorial that introduces you to the basic premise of how everything works. First things first, you need a power source, like the solar panel to power the extractors. This solar panel provides power to the extractor that you get by default, allowing you to produce items. Then you build item pipes to transfer the goods to the truck depot, which will sell for profit in some third world country. This is where the game shines the most, because this game encourages creativity, allowing you to design and optimize your setups for maximum efficiency and compactness. Take notes, golf. The game offers an enormous variety of products to sell, ranging from literal oxygen to leaded gasoline, $1,000 chairs, and even purple gold. Producing these items requires raw materials and factories to process them. But to unlock the necessary technology for these advanced goods, you'll need research. Research is a major part of Industrialist, crucial in unlocking new and better utilities, factories, and power sources. Fortunately, it's very simplified. To make research, you need research stations and power. During the early game, your power grid won't be able to meet your demand, so at the moment, prioritize collecting enough research points to unlock better power sources, which I'll talk about later. I recommend unlocking the research station number 2 for even faster research gain. I also very much recommend to unlock these 2 buildings as soon as possible. Once you unlock everything, research becomes obsolete until something new gets added to the game. By now, you're probably wondering where to even start beyond smuggling overpriced coal into war-torn regions. Well, let's begin with metals. Metals will be your universal ally from the very beginning all the way to the end game. You'll be starting out with copper drills, and to put a brief explanation of turning one small price into a bigger one goes like this: drill, furnace, molder, press, and the roller. The 5 essentials to truly squeeze every last cent out of a single orange rock. But copper is going to be short-lived as soon as you unlock iron drills. Everything is the same, but you get to make more money. Next up, steel. For steel production, you need a blast furnace with iron and coal. Steel products have a mediocre increase in cash, but the real money lies in the craft assembler. This device will fuse both steel products to create an even better product, the crankshaft, that sells for a decent price and a good money method mid-game. However, the craft assembler is painfully slow. Like mentioned before, get these 2 buildings. Further on, you have late game metals like aluminum, lithium, gold, lead, and purple gold that have their own separate and unique extraction and production methods. And yes, I totally haven't mentioned that already. Experimentation is heavily encouraged. You have assembled a pretty solid mid-game money producer, most likely by selling crankshafts, along with a fairly efficient power source. But something's missing. A big leap in Industrialist. a revolutionary marvel, something critical in mass production, something so huge that it will completely redefine your economy and forever alter your world. I truly wonder, what could it be? Yeah, it's oil. How foreshadowed was it? It was inevitable from the very start. Ah yes, oil, the most patronized resource on the planet. Let's start with diesel. Diesel is fairly simple. Oil rigs, liquid boiler, and a crude oil separator. And boom, you got crude diesel. But as the name implies, it's crude quality. That's where the diesel refinery comes in. You also get gasoline as a byproduct, but it's best to process it for a filtration plant to squeeze out more crude diesel. Then, by refining crude diesel 3 times over, you'll get the highest quality diesel, mainly used for diesel engines. Plastic, on the other hand, is a whole different beast. Trying to assemble it for the first time is an excruciating process. Not only is it expensive, but the factory order is also a nightmare to trace. And don't even get me started on the awful piping. To save you the pain, just copy my blueprint for plastic production. With plastic pellets, you can make plastic casings for gearbox production and plastic balls. By fusing plastic balls with any of these listed liquids in the bonding station, you get a set product. But I don't recommend this. Stick to your gearboxes. And that could have been it. But Mommy Tema decided that wasn't nearly enough and added oil fracking, which produces a different variant of oil that can later be distilled into far too many different liquids that I can count. Oh wait, I can. It's free. Those can then be processed into rubber, coke fuel, oil, diesel, gasoline, and sulfur. Typical Breaking Bad stuff. Another obscure oil extraction method is called liquefaction, which does a similar job by liquefying coal, very obvious, into different oils. There are also more dense diesel production counterparts, but I don't use them. They require machine oil. And speaking of machine oil, it's a crucial liquid used in large diesel engines, lithium extraction, advanced diesel factories, and mineshaft drills. It's literally just filtered, refined diesel. That's it. It's not hard to figure out that making oil products is the go-to method for income. As a result, you should definitely spend as much oil hardware as humanly possible.
The true citizen conserves valuable oxygen.
What's this thick fog all about? Well, my viewer, you managed to create the second great smog of London. The excessive CO2 emissions from your factories have made the air unbreathable. Visibility is so bad you can't see beyond 3 meters. And just top oil protesters are now stalking you around your private property. But don't worry, because at this point, you're one of the few integral companies sustaining global trade, so you won't face any jail time. Instead, the game punishes you by decreasing your monetary gain. The more polluted your world becomes, the less money you'll earn. In response, you should invest into scrubbers. They will gradually remove pollution from your world, but at the expense of large residue waste. Residue is an unusable liquid produced by advanced factories and scrubbers. Consequently, residue is nothing, it serves zero purpose, and should be get rid of now. You could burn it into the atmosphere, but this should be exclusively done with residue-producing factories like the diesel refinery. Alternatively, you can get rid of residue safely by selling it at a cost. But that takes time and money, so we use the most brain-dead method of safe residue removal. By storing residue into a fluid silo and then deleting the said silo instead, and all of that residue magically disappears with no penalty. Hell, even the owner himself recommends this strategy. Unfortunately, that won't work in our game modes that I'll cover later. And if you somehow manage to undo your sins and push pollution into the negatives, you can even get bonus pay for saving the planet from pollution while also being the one who caused it. By this point, I've explained the basics of Industrialist, and it's time to talk about the most integral part of the game. According to my demographics, most of you watching me are adults, so most of you would understand that no power means no production, no items, no money, no food, and you get the idea. So I took the liberty to list every single power source in Industrialist and ranking them in a tier list. Disclaimer, this is my opinion, and you will not judge me for it, like a Twitter fanbase. Solar. Worst power source ever. It barely produces any power, no matter the tier. Unfortunately, you're stuck using it. Think of it as Microsoft Edge. Nobody wants it, but you need it to unlock something better. But if they ever add a tier 5 Dyson Sphere, I might reconsider. Until then, D tier. Hand crank. Turn manual labor into power. Pretty good during early game. You can even AFK with it. B tier. Coal generator. Another lackluster power source. You'll use it for about 5 minutes until you unlock something better.
Trash!
D tier. Compact coal power plant. A solid early game power source. All it takes is 3 coal joules. B tier. Wind turbines. The best renewable power source. A decent alternative from early to mid game, especially with tier 2 and 3 turbines. Cheap, pollution free, but output varies with wind speed. B tier. Firebox. Burns coal to heat water for boilers, which produce steam to power large turbines. A solid early to mid-game option. You can spam a whole row of these and keep going until you switch to diesel engines or their steam sources. Can supply 2 boilers. A tier. Geothermal well. Uses underground heat to warm water for boilers, producing no pollution, unlike the firebox. Sounds great, right? Well, not really. Efficiency is inconsistent, and unless you're stacking multiple geothermal wells, you're better off just using a firebox. Remember, the hotter the steam, the better the power production. D tier. Industrial firebox. Supposedly a better version of the firebox because it says industrial in the name. But to see its real power, you need coke fuel, and I doubt you'll want to waste coke fuel on hot water, when you need it for melt production instead. Supplies or boilers. B tier. Gasoline generator. It's garbage, don't use it. D tier. Basic diesel engine. The basic diesel generator takes 3 hours to fill up 1 HP battery. Just skip it entirely. D tier. Modular diesel engine. Build your own generator for power. You have a bunch of separate generator parts that, when fused together, form a generator. This allows you to design your own diesel generator however you like. However, it's mostly an illusion of a choice, because you will almost always end up using this and only this modular design. That said, it fills an HP battery in 11 minutes. Fairly cheap and very efficient at large-scale power generation. S tier. Large diesel engine. A direct upgrade to the modular diesel engine, or so you'd think. It costs a hefty $1 million, plus machine oil and water. But hear me out, it does generate more power, especially if you use filtered or distilled water. Produces 1 gigawatt of power in 2.5 minutes. More piping required, but in the late game, $1 million is nothing. S tier. Electric heater. Can produce much higher water than the firebox, but there's a catch. To generate higher temperatures, you need a high voltage power node. To get high voltage, you need a transformer, and a transformer costs 7.5 times the price of an electric heater. So, if power generation is your goal, is not worth it. However, for compact, high-temperature steam production, it's an option. D tier. Natural gas. By refining natural gas, you can burn it to make hot water at 400 degrees. Perfect for steam-powered factories. Supposedly, one gas burner is enough to power 10 boilers. Unfortunately, while it's more efficient than a modular diesel engine, it takes up a lot of space. B tier. And that's all the power sources. I hope I didn't miss anything here. Would be a shame to make an entirely separate section about one power source. Moving on. Late game introduces some of the most advanced revenue methods, like ferroaluminium magnets, purple gold, and lithium battery packs. I could explain them, but for God's sakes, do you see how long this video is? To keep up with the pace of progress, you'll also unlock upgraded versions of metal production apparatus, like Mark II versions of the blast furnace, press, and roller, offering even more efficiency. Remember, you're still clawing your way to the top 1%. But this isn't enough. No, we need more than just incremental progress. We need top-of-the-class equipment, some next-gen infrastructure, something so transformative, so groundbreaking, that it will send the world trade into overdrive. There's a saying that goes, the closer the finish line, the harder it gets. And I'm damn sure that's true for what's coming. Tier 4 introduces the final and most advanced factories in the Industrialist. These are the most efficient, expensive, and power-hungry machinery in the game. Here's a breakdown of each one. The lathe consumes large quantities of metal to produce drill heads, which sell for a tremendous price. However, they aren't really meant for selling, at least not for what's coming next. Mineshaft drill. With any drill head of your choice and acid to reduce durability loss, you can dig into the earth for valuable resources. Depending on the depth, you can obtain some of the more special resources like shallow, medium, and deep earth fragments. You can also use machine oil for a double-edged benefit. I have no idea how you can get infinite supply of resources from the same depth, but hey, don't question it. It's best to keep it that way. The foundry, a small piece of the Baogang steel mill. With ore and a lot of water, this powerhouse smelts hundreds of ores at an incredible speed. It even comes in with a built-in molder to output ingots instantly. Electrolysis plant converts water and salt water into their elemental components, a crucial part of producing hydrochloric acid. Advanced assembler, an upgraded version of the basic raft assembler, handles more inputs, speeds up production, and unlocks new items like electric motors, batteries, and filters. This should be one of the first Tier 4 buildings you unlock for maximum efficiency. I did mention that at the beginning of the video, remember? HV transformer converts basic voltage into high voltage, which is required for Tier 4 buildings. HV poles allow for power transfer over massive distances. Precision assembly produces various electronics, including semiconductors, electrodes, logic plates, and 2x microchips. Very useful, but I personally hate how much power it consumes. Water treatment plant turns regular water into distilled water. That's it. There's a reason it's in the Tier 4 category. HV battery Mark II. The final battery stores 1 terawatt of energy. If you don't know basic math, that's 1000 gigawatts or 1 million megawatts. From this point on, shit hits the fan. The next two Tier 4 machines I'm about to mention are the hardest things in the Industrialist. Where do I even begin with this? Number 1. You need $60 million. To be fair, that's pretty cheap if compared to real life. Number 2. You need a lot of power. That's right, you need power to power the power source. Number 3. It generates a lot of pollution. Add insult to injury if you're fueling the plant with basic cold drills. Number 4. You have to build everything in the right order, or risk ending up with an awfully perplexing design. Unfortunately, I was one of those people. Number 5. It will take a lot of trial and error in figuring out how to control the power plant for more than 12 seconds. Let's start with the assembly. To produce enormous amounts of code to even run it, you have 3 options: basic cold drills, advanced cold drills, or mineshaft drills. You'll also need distilled water for power generation. You can get it from either a water treatment plant or an atmospheric distillation plant. Exhaust must be disposed of using exhaust stack, and filters are a must-have to reduce the insane pollution levels, and there's no way out of this. Now for the actual power generation. Heated water enters the heat exchanger, basically a massive boiler. Steam flows through the turbine system in this order: turbine input, high pressure turbine, intermediate pressure turbine, low pressure turbines. Then the steam reaches the turbine generator and exits through the turbine output, and you have power. But we're not done yet. The remaining steam must be converted back into water via a steam condenser. The condenser requires a closed-loop supply of distilled water coming from the coolant tower to keep it running. Pause. I forgot to mention that after the steam condenser process, the polisher is used to finally turn the condensate back into water, thus completing the recirculation cycle. Continue. I could explain the startup, but if I did, I'd probably go insane. I'll make a separate video for that later. But I still have to explain it. So, you control the plant's heat and pressure using the pressurizer, the cold feeder, the exhaust system, and the air pumps. The higher water temperature, the more power. If you ever played realistic boiling water reactor simulator, this should feel eerily familiar. In conclusion, if you ignore the extreme cost and the absurd pollution, it's fucking peak. S tier. Oh, and by the way, there's an even harder power plant coming soon. The Logic Assembler. This is it, the single hardest machine to assemble in the entire game. Before you can even start building this monstrosity, you first need several factories producing gold wire, semiconductors, logic plates, and copper. The 4 horsemen of microchip production. But here's the catch. It's not as simple as in, boom, and out kind of production. The logic assembler needs logic.
What do you mean by that?
Well, dear viewer, I've kept this forbidden knowledge hidden long enough to admit I have no idea how it works either. I'm fairly certain that during development, the scripters lost their minds trying to make this work. Anyway, the logic assembler requires a logic circuit to input the 4 materials in the correct order to successfully create higher tier microchip. The output must also be correctly wired, or it fails. The final tier microchip takes 48 cycles of this convoluted process. Setting this up is a nightmare, and you will fuck up the wiring at least once. Feel free, we have the schematic for it in the description. And after many wasted hours, instead of, playing for exams, you'll finally produce a single 8x64 microchip, which sells for a staggering $5 million. Therefore, if you can successfully set up hundreds of correctly wired logic assemblers, you can officially become a billionaire. Congratulations, you are now part of the 1%. But guess what? We are still not done with this game. Let's just get this over with. There are different game modes that can spice up your gameplay, but honestly, the only thing they spice up is difficulty. Sandbox. You can build whatever you want with no restrictions. Sandbox can be enhanced even more with the Sandbox Plus Game Pass. Ore nodes, basically Minecraft generation. Your extractors can only work in randomly generated resource veins. This game mode also adds an exclusive extractor called the Industrial Drill to compensate for this challenge. Then we have the difficulties. Starting with hard mode, your task is to reach -1% pollution at the cost of no renewable energy and the implementation of residue deletion penalty. Pretty easy if you ask me. Insane. Sell one gearbox under 100% pollution. Removes transfer poles, batteries, and scrubbers while keeping hard mode's restrictions. Luckily, power sources via range buff with the removal of transfer poles. A bit hard. Impossible. Same task as Insane, but it also bans advanced coal drills, gold silo tanks, and disables the pollution meter. Doesn't change much, to be honest. All three of these difficulties were actually pretty easy, thanks to one strategy I like to call 500 oil rigs. Here's the deal, crude oil sells for a moderate price. Oil rigs barely need any power and they produce almost no pollution. To put this into perspective, 40 oil rigs create as much pollution as one coal drill. So I spammed oil rigs until I could afford all the plastic manufacturing equipment. And then we got Impossible 2. This difficulty changes everything. Your final task to be Industrialist once and for all is to sell one purple gold under 200% pollution within 4 hours. Impossible 2 adds new brutal challenges like random fires that can spread and destroy everything, rough estimations of money, forced ore nodes, and no refunds for any placed buildings. Out of the 1.5 million players who've tried this game, only 25 people have beaten Impossible 2. And if you ask me, did I beat this difficulty? The answer is no. But if this video gets 20,000 likes, yes, I'm either stupid or bold with this quota, which let's be honest, you won't reach that point, I'll beat Impossible 2. And I finally explained everything. You've finally beaten the Industrialist. You've conquered everything the game has to offer. In other words, you built every single factory, collected every single badge, mastered the intricacies of logic, and even beaten the Impossible 2 difficulty. There is nothing left that can challenge you. Not until the devs finally release nuclear energy. You officially become the 1%, the richest person in the world. There's no competition left that can put up a fight against you. And all it took was some ingenuity and the birth of a new, heavily polluted world. The entire planet blames you for making Earth inhospitable, but you remain indifferent.
Don't care.
You hoard your wealth like a dragon, guarding your treasure until the inevitable end of your days. Upon your passing, not a single penny will be left behind to aid others, sealing the planet's fate in the unavoidable extinction of life on what was once called Earth. Thank you for watching. I am finally done with this video. All I have to say is that I am not making another 30-minute long video ever for the time being. Huge shout out to these contributors: Laura47, OofShinobi, Waiz, YeetyMcDeet, Bruhpressed, Puszonex. And to top it all off, I'll repeat what I said in the last outro. Hey you, I demand you to like and subscribe. This video took me 4 months to make. It would really mean a lot to me if you subscribed.
I'm done. I'm not even getting paid for this crap.